Hey y'all, this is Dan. Recently I was able to do a remote session with a few folks from Lines, which walked through how to download and manage scripts for norns through Maiden. The session was fun, so we figured it'd be good to share in case others wanted to know. But before we dive in, let's start with a brief overview of the steps needed to wirelessly connect to norns. If you have a stock norns, make sure your Wi-Fi dongle's in one of the USB ports. If you aren't there already, press key 1 to access the top-level main menu. Use encoder 2 to scroll down to System, and press key 3 to enter the System menu. Same thing here. Use encoder 2 to scroll down to Wi-Fi, and press key 3 to enter the Wi-Fi menu. If you've never connected norns to a network, things will look like this. For times when you either aren't in range of a router or don't know an available network's password, norns can host its own network through hotspot. Use encoder 2 to scroll over to hotspot and press key 3 to enable it. It may take a few seconds to activate. On your computer, you'll see a norns network appear in your Wi-Fi list. When prompted, enter 8 lowercase n's as the password, and you should be able to join the norns hotspot. In order to connect norns to an existing Wi-Fi network, you'll first need to add it. Use encoder 2 to scroll over to add, and press key 3 to see the networks within range. Use encoder 2 to scroll down to the network you wish to join, and press key 3 to select it. On the password screen, you'll use encoder 3 to move between the character selector and the controls at the bottom of the screen. Use encoder 2 to scroll through the character selector. When you land on a character you wish to enter, press key 3. If you make a mistake entering your password, use encoder 3 to jump down to the controls, and use encoder 2 to scroll over to delete. With delete selected, press key 3 to delete the last entry in the password field. Use encoder 3 to scroll back up to the character selector, and continue entering your password with encoder 2 and key 3. When your password is fully entered, use encoder 3 to move back down to the controls, and press key 3 on OK to enter it. After a few seconds, you'll be brought back to the Wi-Fi screen where you'll see status activated. Norns should auto-connect to the last known network if it's in range, but if you ever need to manually reconnect, use encoder 2 to scroll over to connect, and press key 3 to review your known networks. With the network selected, press key 3 to connect using the stored credentials. If you ever need to delete a known network, use encoder 2 to scroll over to delete and press key 3 to review your known networks. With the network selected, press key 3 to delete the stored credentials. Using these steps, you should be able to reliably connect to your norns to access Maiden, the norns project manager. The rest of this video assumes that you've successfully connected norns to a network and walks you through Maiden's features. Enjoy, and feel free to stop by Lines or email help@monom.org for troubleshooting assistance.
All right, and
You're good? Hell yeah. Dope. So 2 ways to connect to Maiden through a browser. You should be able to just straight up type in the address bar norns.local, as long as norns and your computer are on the same Wi-Fi network. If that doesn't work, in the Wi-Fi menu, once you're connected to Wi-Fi, there's an IP listed, and you can just type that straight up into your browser. And that'll open up Maiden.
so we have, our router has a 2G and a 5G band, and norns didn't see the 5G one. My computer's on the 5G one, so I'm going to try to jump on the 2G one.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we end up at Maiden, and Maiden is broken up into a couple different sections. So we have our little nav bar here, which toggles the file viewer on and off to give you more room to be able to script. You can toggle the REPL on and off. And then the project manager, you can toggle between the project manager and going back to your file viewer. The project manager is the main space to manage all the scripts that are on your norns. and to be able to pull from the community repo. For the things you have installed, if they have these little commit tags, then those are ones that you've pulled from the repository or were put on to your norns through the repository. And then if they don't have that tag, then they're things that you are probably scripting on your own. So for example, I have a couple working copies of cheat codes here, but here's the actual one from the repository. So those don't have any commit tags. This one does. You can update scripts directly from this interface, which is really nice. I mean, if you hit update on something that doesn't actually have a repo connected to it, it just won't do it. It'll say it can't find it in the catalog, which is great because, you know, if it were to find something, it would overwrite your custom project. So it'll just flat out fail if it can't find it. To be able to get something from the repo, you'll switch over to this available section. And there are two primary repos. So there's the base repo, which is our the ones that come from Mono. So we've got the Crow studies, the softcut studies, and then we, which is the very first bundle of scripts that were made available for Norns back in, I think, May 2018. And those will have some of the foundational engines. But the real juice here is going to be the community catalog. So if we refresh the catalog, that'll pull in any new scripts. And then you can basically just like go through and if folks have taken the time to tag them, then you can kind of get a sense for what that script is. And then once you find something you like, so what's nice is you can click the name of the script if you want to get a little bit more information, and it'll take you directly to the thread on lines.
Great.
So you can kind of learn a little bit more about this. And yeah, then we can just click install, and then it installs, and that's it. And then on Norns, I could immediately go to my select menu, scroll down, I click K3 and K3, and then it's there. One thing to note, if you install something that has a new Super Collider engine, then that will always throw an error until you restart, just because Super Collider has to basically recompile and find that engine and then initialize it. So I think, for example, this one is going to have a new engine in it. So let me see what happens when I try to open that. Perfect. So when I tried to open that script, it says it's missing this synth engine. So what I'll do is, and actually in the REPL here, you have a really pretty clear error. I need to restart the Super Collider layer. So here's a thing. In the REPL, you have two REPLs. You have the matron REPL, which is all of your Lua layer stuff, and then you have your SC, which is Super Collider. So if I execute that restart command inside of the Super Collider one, it'll recompile the class library, and Super Collider is restarting. Get me to good. Restart this side. There we go. There's my synth that was previously missing. So if I restart Super Collider, restart my Lua layer, I could also just turn Norns on and off. Dope. And then I can go in and let's actually load that script from Maiden itself. So if I go to my code, and I find the script that I had installed, and I find my Lua file, this loads all of the code, so I could, poke around, and I can load it right here, or with my keyboard shortcut, Command P. Shoot. And then yeah, it just runs the script right from there. So I don't have to key around on the norns if I don't want to. Especially when it comes to troubleshooting your own scripts, for sure, but also if you're using a community script and you get into a spot where something gets a little wonky, matron will always tell you what's happening. So like we had that script error where we were missing the Lysodron engine. It let us know inside of that space. If there were a bug and we accidentally got to a point where a variable was nil, that would also print in this space. So it's really nice for just helping troubleshoot. It'll also give you a line that's messed up. Let me see if I can't fuck up this script.
Just type a bunch of garbage in.
Yeah, right. Yeah, actually, let's just do that. There we go. Perfect. So script error load fail. It told me on line 54, it got a syntax error. I mean, we've got a pretty clear, like, hey, there's a bad thing happening here. But yeah, it does this nice kind of like, here's where the problem is. One of the conventions is that any of your additional files, so if you break up certain functions into standalone Lua files, that you'll drop those into lib, because the file browser on the actual norns hardware automatically hides the lib folder, because otherwise you'll have Lysodron, and then if you had a bunch of just straight up Lua files in that top layer, it would be Lysodron / name of that one, / name of that one, / name of that one. Yeah, so as long as the primary Lua file has the same name as the project, then the user will just see the name of the project. And everything else included in lib, it'll reference the lib file as long as you point it to this include. That's where you'd keep your super collider engine if you have a script that has one. Yeah, that just all goes in lib. Audio is just going to be all your audio files, the little file tree there. It's the same as if you were to navigate through the tape menus inside of norns, or if you had a script that had file select to load samples. Data is where presets are saved. This is really nice because if you were to remove a script from code, the data files persist. So if you just pulled out a bunch of scripts because you're like, I'm not using these anymore and I don't want my menu to be cluttered, and you reinstalled them, they would restore their presets that you had last established, which is a really nice kind of consistency thing. There's also this little question mark hover thing, which has a weird opacity level. But there's an overview, which just brings you straight to the norns docs. There's script reference, which takes you to the docs, but specifically the scripting reference. And then there's the API, which shows you all of the modules and classes. And then if you click into any of those, you can learn a bit about scripting these.
Oh, it's beautiful.
You can also kind of like query these things. So for example, in the matron REPL, if I just enter the word clock, it returns that there's a table named clock. So if I use tab.print clock, it'll print all of the items in that table. And then this, you'll notice, just follows the same API. So this is a really nice way to just make sure that you're respecting the global namespace as well, so that you don't accidentally declare a variable clock in your script. You can just do a quick check and be like, oh, okay, that's actually already established as a thing. But if I put butts, that's nil. Nice. We can always use butts.
Yeah, and then I noticed you can press up to recall your last command, which is very nice.
That is a really nice thing. You'll also notice that there's, once you go up far enough, if you've loaded scripts, then you'll see the secret script load command, which is norns.script.load, and then the file path for the thing. Yeah, so norns has some like system globals, but your script ones are, while you're running your script, you can have like local and global, but they're all going to be within the scope of that script. So if you run a new script, if it's not a system global, then it's just.
Great. So we don't have to worry about colliding with other functions in different packages. Okay.
Right. There are these like configuration options. If you click the gear in the bottom left, I don't know how to use key bindings very well, but you have options.
How many spaces your tabs are.
Oh, yep.
The Great War of 2 versus 4.
There you
recognized.
go. And then, yeah, you can swap to a dark theme for your.
Do you do most of your development in the browser like this, or do you have a separate text editor?
So I wrote 5,000 lines of code inside of Maiden, and then at a certain point, it just becomes a bit hard to have to like constantly just like resize these things, and I want to be able to. There's just a benefit to using an external editor. And so Greg actually helped me link my process into VS Code, which I can show you guys. So easiest way to connect norns as a network drive is using SMB on Mac, which is just in Finder. If you command K, then it'll say, hey, yeah, what server do you want to connect to? And it's the same, you can use norns.local or the IP address and just straight away connect. And then that'll open it as a network drive.
Beautiful.
And then from here, if you crack open your editor of choice.
Really quick, it wants username and password for norns.local.
It will just be we is the username, and then sleep is the password.
Sweet.
What did you say that the quick key to that was again?
Command K. So yeah, what I really love doing is just opening a folder inside of VS Code, click into my mounted drive, go into Dust, go into Code, pull up the whole folder that I'm working on, and then that pretty cleanly just loads everything. Yeah, and then you've got all your nice little like syntax highlighting, and they can really customize. But I think for like large projects, this is so necessary. And then you can either just be like, dope, I really just want to use Maiden as a REPL, and then just like expand it up, and so now then you can just work here, save.
And that's all the workflows. You just save it in your IDE and then rerun, or whatever your rerun function is.
Yeah.
Cool. No restarts or like recompile or builds or anything like that.
I mean, if you're doing super collider engines,
okay,
then you will want to restart super collider. Yeah, and then the last little bit here is SSH, and you can actually just like access maiden through the command line in terminal.
Nice.
So if you crack open terminal and you just do SSH at, and you can either do your IP or norns. Oh no, that's not it. It's SSH we at.
Yep, you got in.
And then we sleep loads you up there, and then this command norn/build/maiden-REPL/maiden-REPL, which we should make easier to get to, just loads up maiden in a command line. It's not like the full maiden experience. It's just the REPL. So you could just like start typing, like if you typed clock, it would tell you clock's a table. And if you do tab.print clock, it would print all the stuff.
I see.
But yeah, I think for the scripting workflow, this is actually really nice to kind of just have both of them. And then this way too, if you were to hotspot from norns, then you don't need any actual internet connection to be able to script.
And I love that the URL in Maiden is the path to the file you're in, so you can bookmark stuff, and that's really nice.
Yeah. Greg did a really lovely job with building this thing.
I do have to say that all the hardware out there, this has to be like the best community. It doesn't. There's no. I mean, like there's the most resources, like just things to get you kind of chewing on, and then yet there's still so much to do within. Yeah, I just love open source stuff, and it just seems so much more honest. And
what I love about it is there's like this emergent aesthetic and lexicon around like how we talk about things or how we label things. And it's really cool to see. It's like its own dialect sort of emerge around all these tools. It's just like just going through and reading each of these, they all sort of fit together in their own interesting idiosyncratic way, but they're all like totally unique and creative expressions from different people. It's really inspiring.
Yeah, Brian and I were talking the other day, and it's just, I mean, it is remarkable the amount of energy and time that the community catalog represents, right? Like you have 65 regularly maintained expressions in there that are fully fledged tools, right? Like this is an insane depth.
Well, that's the whole other thing is like, it's so much more of a more than an instrument. It's hard for like a company to be the all-altering kind of vehicle, it gets into all the truth, like into everything. And this really does that well. Like it allows for all those creative minds to culminate and cross multiple trains at once. And so like you have these developers who are just doing effects, and then people are just doing like stuff with sequencing or just looping. It's just like, you get good eyes on everything, right? So
yeah, and you have things like Loom, which was a community sourced application. So Jay Gilligan, who's one of the world's greatest jugglers, actually recognized as one of the living masters. He has been he's been using Monom tools for ever, and his shows always involve music and physical gesture working together to tell the story. And so he had this idea where he was like, I know how I want to interact with something. And Mark Eats took him up on it, and they built this pattern weaving sequencer that fit Jay's performative aesthetic, and Mark was able to flesh it out, and now it's in the repo. Like, that's such a fucking cool thing.